We are doing a panel discussion about immigration with people who have walked through that process before and who have lived that process. This afternoon, I believe at 3:30, Dr. Zehnder and I will record a podcast where we engage on best practices and discussion, and that'll be live recorded in here at 3:30. So, let's get started, shall we? So I will have each of our panelists introduce themselves, share where you've come from, what country you have immigrated from, and what situation or reason led you to come here. I mean, other than Dr. Zehnder, the three of you are students here at Grace. So, and if you are a Grace student, please tell us your academic program.
Hello. Yes, thank you for having me here today. Yeah, my name is Mang Sang. I'm from Fort Wayne, but I am originally from Burma, Myanmar right now. Yes, yeah, I grew up in Myanmar. I was born in February 25, 2000, and then my parents, my dad left me. I mean, like left me mean like he went to Malaysia, to support our family and, and then, assist financially with my back in Myanmar, and then I stayed with my mom and grandparents, and then my mom left, and I had to stay with my grandparents. My grandfather died when I was little, so yeah, I was struggling with school because there's no proper educations we're getting at, and then we can't even pay for tuition for school, so I had to drop out like kindergarten or first grade before I moved to Malaysia. So when I was 8 years old, I moved to Malaysia because my parents couldn't pay for tuition, so they want me to have better educations somewhere else. So in 2008, I was in Malaysia and then stayed about there at like 2 years with my family, and then 2010, I came to the United States, first in Texas. The reasons was that because my parents, like I said, want me to pursue education because they don't have proper education. They were working as a farmers. I will be working as a farmer if I don't came, if I'm not here today, supporting my family, having my own family and working in the field, finding a food for just today's, just for 1 day's meal, So, the reason I came to the United States because my parents want me to have a better education, better life to support the family.
And Mong, what is your academic program?
My academic program is, my major is biblical study and minor in youth ministry, and I am the blended program. So this is my third year at Grace.
Hello, everybody. I'm Neza Isabel. I'm from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Central of Africa. What brought me here? I came for school. After my high school. It has always been my dream and my family dream to help us, their kids, to get proper education in this kind of country. And I found myself here in Maine, Portland, Maine. And after that, after my undergrad, there is a war that broke down in my country where my family and I talked, and they're like, it's better for you to stay there. And this is my 7th year without seeing my family. This is my first year here too at Grace, and I'm doing my master's in intercultural studies.
Excellent, thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Aronyalo Mwene from Tanzania. I was born in Tanzania and I grew there with my family. So my first journey began in Congo, where my parents are from. They were born in Congo, but after the war, That was 1996. They went back to Tanzania. They went to Tanzania from Congo, and then there I was born. So I was there for 16 years, I guess my entire life. So after that long, there's still no peace in Congo. My parents had a chance to come to the U.S. So because there's no peace in Congo, and my parents wanted me to have a better life of education, they decided to come to the United States. So I came here in 2016 with half of my family. I have a big family, but all my older brothers are still there, but I'm with my younger brothers here. So this is my second year here at Grace College, and I'm doing biblical studies and minor in criminal justice. I am in blended program as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, my name is the same as on the book, and hasn't changed since. For the records, Markus Zehnder. Now, I also came here in 2016, but I have a little longer journey than the others here. So born in Switzerland, and I stayed in Switzerland approximately for 30 years. But I couldn't find a job in Switzerland, and that has to do with, or Germany, which is kind of the same cultural area. And that has to do with my theological positions. So then I needed to be ready to move. So either change my profession or move, and I decided to move. And so I moved to Germany first, and then to Norway. And then I combined the position in Norway and in Belgium. And then I left this double position to come here. I'm not a refugee technically, but I'm also not an immigrant technically. I'm a guest worker on a non-immigrant visa.
Okay, so maybe we should remove you from the panel then.
I think in some sense, yes.
I forgot to mention earlier, if anybody has a question, we do have the microphones in the back available if anybody has a question. I know that's not going to be one of the prepared questions I sent you guys, so be ready for a curveball, okay? So maybe for each of you, what is something you miss from your home country? What is something that you wish you were still able to experience from your home country?
Yeah, one of the things I miss about is having my childhood there, mostly because I really miss my friends, my childhood friends, because I'm an introvert person, my best friends, he's really, he's supported, before I went to Malaysia, he's crying, I can visualize how his tears are crying like a baby, and even I haven't seen my grandparents, my relatives, almost 15 years out. So, like I said, my childhood and growing up there and learning about more of the cultures, my culture that I didn't get to experience, as a child. Does that make sense?
Growing up, I grew up kind of my parents teaching us to be tough, strong, especially being a girl. It's you gotta be tough. So getting here, it's I have to be tough. So I don't have to show emotion. I don't, I have to be strong. But really deep down, I miss the longing of knowing that I belong. I know that deep down there is that missing part. Even though on the outside it's I don't I'm tough. I don't miss my family. Like I miss them, but like deep down there is just like a longing of a place that I can call home. Yeah.
What I miss the most is I have brothers there and friends. So I'm someone who lived with people. Like the camp, you live with everyone around. So not everyone is in his house every time or like that. So you see people everywhere outside. You play, you spend time together, and then you do all of that good stuff. Yeah, similar to Mang too. The time I left Tanzania, all of my friends came with me until the last minute. Until the last minute, I left the camp. So they were crying. Yeah, I was crying too. So it was emotional.
Well, there was crying with me also on the way, and I almost cry when I hear you. It is also the sense of home. So I go for a walk and I watch where I am, and it's not home. And that's perhaps the deepest thing. Yeah.
Would each of you mind sharing what was the process like in entering the United States? What was that like for you? What were some of the emotions you felt, and maybe just even what was difficult about that?
Can I go first? Okay, let me go first. My process was not long to get in the States. I applied to a school. I got accepted. They sent me a application so I went to the embassy just to ask for visa. The first time they denied. The second time they gave me the visa. And coming in, there was no problem, but it's when my family and I decided to apply for asylum when I'm here. That's when the process took, it was a long process because I have to give justification why I cannot go back to my country, and that was the longest process. But coming in, entering the state, it was not hard. The most hard part was the separation of me and my family. But also I was excited because I didn't know that I would spend 7 years without seeing them. I knew that I'm coming to school and I'm going back. So there were that joy that I'm going to, after high school, you just want to get out the house. If I knew it's gonna be this long, I think I would have cried a lot. But I would watch my mom cry. I'm like, why are you crying? Like, yeah.
I think mine was I would say long, 2 years. So we had maybe 4 steps, and I don't remember all of them, but I can remember 2, the first one and the last one. The first one we had came to this place where they do investigation. You give the reasons why you don't wanna go back to Congo, and why you wanna go to United States. So that's and through all those 4 processes, you had to give same information, right? Even if it's signature, you have to give the same signature. You miss signature, you miss something on your process too. So it's very restrictive. And through this process is when I even got baptized. So the first trip to Kigoma, which is a region in Tanzania, so we had to leave the camp and then go to somewhere else to do the investigation and all the steps we needed. So there, I felt the call. I felt like the passion to get baptized and wanting to learn more about the Bible. And after that, I came back home and recruited my friends, and we had to follow the process of getting baptized. Then I got baptized. But it was pretty long, of going and forth. At some point, I just didn't want. I wanted to go, but never come back because I've lived in the camp for so long and never leave the camp, never like go somewhere else, just in the camp all day. I mean, all years. So when I left the camp for a while, I thought, I guess that was my first time to ride a car too. So I was like, for 3 hours, car. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I don't wanna come back. But yes, so it was a pretty long process, and it was there was some emotional and some hope.
Yeah, before coming to the United States, the transitions is really long for me. The process, because I have to start in Myanmar, then Myanmar to the capital Yangon. I have to stay there for like 4 months, to get answer from like the government, and my parents like planned it. So me, my brother, and my uncle and aunt were, my parents call us to come to Malaysia. So we have to wait for months in Yangon, and they plan to take us to take flight, Yangon to Malaysia, but it didn't work. So we have to go through, across the border, without getting caught by the Thai governments and Malaysia's government. So we crossed the border, and then 2008, we got there in Malaysia. And then in Malaysia, as soon as we got there, my parents, apply for the United Nations, the refugee, the immigrant, application, and then we have to wait for the process and get phone call, and we have to wait in a judge, and then, it's a long process. And then, when we first heard from like the United Nations, the agent saying that we had to leave, the United States, we were so filled with joy, that because my parents are longing to go to the United States, because for us it's like a second heaven. The United States, it's like where honey and milk will flow. So we were so excited, to leave Malaysia, because where we are living, we fear the government, because they call it operasi, because they will like catch any immigrant that doesn't like the citizenships of Malaysians. So we were so afraid to live there. So when we got the news we were going to the United States, we were so feared. And then in the process, when we got on the plane, we came to Texas, and then lived there for like 4 months, and then moved here in Indiana. During the winter time, everything was white from the airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, technically the process was easy. I just took a plane in Oslo and landed in Los Angeles, and that was it. Emotionally, of course, it's a little different, but I was experienced already, because I had emigrated before that from Switzerland to Norway, so I was familiar with how this is. However, on the other hand, the process for me is not finished, because I don't know whether I will be able to stay here. Yeah.
Perhaps you don't feel this way, but how long did it take for you to get settled? And if you don't feel settled, what parts don't you feel settled?
Yeah, for me it took like years to settle, adjust the culture, adjust, in the environment, To be honest, when I got here, I got here with like illness, like they call it chicken pox, because I didn't know about the disease, the illness, so I had to experience that one, and then, and it was not fun to experience that, and then, and yeah, like it took me like years to know the people, know where the environment is.
I don't know if I'm settled, and I don't know if I'm gonna be soon. Yeah, because personally, like, I'm not a citizen of this country. There's so many things that I don't know about the country, even though to my parents who are not here, they think I have, because you did your undergrad, you are going in grad school. They think that, oh, like, you can speak English. That's the big thing for them. They're like, oh, you speak English, so you maybe you have friends. But I think I haven't settled yet, and I don't know when it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Similar with Elizabeth. I have not settled yet, but I had a hope, and the hope was after I was able to communicate in English, because I came here, I didn't know anything in English as well. So my hope came after I was doing. So I was more involved at my first year here. So I did Bible quizzing, and I was in Young Life at my school. So I was very active, and I think that boosted my English skills. After that, I kind of have this hope of being settled, but overall, I don't think I am yet.
Well, this is again a difficult question. Settling for me has various layers, and on some layers I am settled. I know where to buy what, and I learn more about the local culture or the national culture. However, for me as an elderly person, I suffer from observing that the times are very unsettling. So that makes the concept of settling even more relative.
We all come from different countries, different continents. But one thing we all have in common is we all put our faith and trust in Christ. What has church involvement looked like for you since being in the United States? How has your Bible been an encouragement to you, or been a part of this process with you?
Yeah, when I got in the United States, I was not a believer. Even my parents, I have no knowledge of what the Bible is, churches, even who Jesus is, who God is, Yeah, but after moving from Texas to Indiana, about for 6 years. After 6 years living in Indiana, I got to experience what church really is. I got to, I get the real experience of the real. I really grasped it, what the gospel really is, through preachers, and when he preach the gospel, with passions, and it really touched my heart that I'm not a perfect person, I'm not a good person, but a sinner, and then that moment I gave my life to Jesus, April the 9th, 2016. I was 16 years old back then, and then I committed my life to Jesus, and then ever since then, my heart, I have passion for going to church, reading the Bible, meditating, studying who God is, who Jesus is, who the Holy Spirit is, getting involved in the church, and and I have no idea what I'm gonna do after high school, but I knew that after giving my life to Christ, there's a passion. God, I believe God had put a passion in my heart that I'm gonna pursue ministry, and that for His glory, not mine. So then I started to. Then back then, it was. I knew that then. I knew God was guiding me through the process because a Grace student came to my house. His name is Ben Gruber. He came to stay with me overnight, and then he shared me about what Grace is, what they are doing, what they teach, and I got really excited about it because I have no idea what Bible school I want to go to after college. So I checked it out, Grace, and then I got into it, and then I was accepted. So it was God that using Ben Gruber and for to get me to where I want to be, because because God put a passion in my heart. So to the questions, I would say after I became a Christian, I really got involved in churches, and everything, for Christ's glory.
Yeah. I remember Ben Gruber. He was a bold evangelist. He really was. Tiberius, you had him in class, correct? Yeah, bold evangelist. Yeah.
My journey, as I said, it started in Tanzania. On my second trip to Kigoma. So I was baptized, but I didn't have too much information about my faith. So after I arrived here in the USA, 2016, August of 18th, I joined the Aldous Gate Free Methodist Church in Indianapolis, and there everything was in English, and there was no translator for sure. They did use Google Translate many times, but luckily my dad also was someone in my family who was able to, I say, mumble English, but they were not able to understand what he was saying at the most part. It was sad, but we stayed there, and after a few months, I joined the Bible quizzing team. I did memorize a lot of scriptures, many verses in English, but I didn't know what I was memorizing for the most part. So we did quizzing. We did competitions in different states. We did, and we had the final. We had national, international Bible quizzing in Illinois, Greenville University, and I was second. I was in second place. Just memorizing. I memorized a lot, and so I would when they asked me a simple question, I would just quote the entire maybe 6 verses after that. Wow. So answer the question and the more information. But I was just quoting. So that really strengthened my faith. During the Bible quizzing, because I would read in English, then come home and read my Bible in Swahili as well. So that helped a lot. And that's how my faith got strengthened. And also after joining the Young Life, it was Bible stuff. We went to Michigan, Timberwolf Lake. It was all activity of the Bible. And that's what Grace, my faith has been strengthened. I've been challenged, and I've been able to overcome those challenges in faith and through the Bible. So yeah, that's my journey.
I think in one word, getting here and not having family, I really feel like the church had become one. That's the words that I can describe. And I always get emotional because not the church as a building, but I think of any person who has made this journey to be easier was a Christian. Either the church I attended, the school I went to, but mostly the church in general has become a family that I left home. Personally, the Bible and God, I don't know if I would be who I am today without God and without His Word. There is time where you are down. What am I doing alone here? But somehow God will know how to speak to me, how to comfort. Through scripture, through listening to a podcast, through talking to a friend, a Christian friend, you will feel encouraged. And I can say that God has been everything to this point, but also the church has been a family where I feel home.
For me, the openness to move, it was a specific period of time when I decided it is more important for me to be able to teach the Bible than to have a home naturally. So that, but then I wasn't moving immediately, but that was a decision I took. And then when I was teaching in Switzerland, I taught Genesis 12, among others. And that was how God began His plan of salvation, by calling someone out of his home and moving him to another place. And that touched me, and I thought, well, who knows, that may be my way as well. And so then I was forced by circumstances to leave, and I did it because of Genesis 12. And then on this way, the Bible has become, in a way, another home. And really more the Bible than a church. Here and there were good church relations, but here and there were not. And so that's coincidental. But the Bible, God's Word, remains, and that's where I can go anytime, anywhere.
For the three students, what's it like being a student, getting an education while being an immigrant? And Dr. Zehnder, if you want to answer the question from the perspective of a professor, what's it like to teach as an immigrant?
I can start. For me, it's a hope and also a pressure. Because when I am in higher education like this, I expect more, and more is expected from me, my community. So I'm, since you go to college, they expect too much, a lot. And to some extent, I think that's more pressure. When I see where I am and where I'm going, I don't know where I'm going to some extent. And I know I'm going to college, and there's hope of job, but since I don't know, I think that's too much pressure. So, but I enjoy it. I have hope of helping, and I think it's a good job.
What is the question again? Sorry.
Yes. Getting an education while being an immigrant. What has that been like for you?
First is getting my parents' prayers answered. Because the education is what my parents' dreams of, for his children to get proper, knowledge, and then, it's a dream for us, even though we didn't get, it's a free, in this country, it seems like everything is free for us, we don't know, where all the money went, but we are getting the education, we don't have to pay for tuition, like elementary to high school, we are getting, free food, free clothing, Back then in Myanmar, we have to buy those things, even the books and all the requirements of the class, we don't have that, but here we can access everything what the schools provided for, and education, even like the Bible said, get wisdom, even though it costs you everything, for me, it's getting education is like getting wisdom, learning from the teachers and learning about even not just the subject, but the country, who the people were, and yeah, it is a pleasures. It is a joyful that I get to get free education compared to my country.
For me, first, it's challenging. It's challenging to be to learn in a language that we are learning. Yeah, it's challenging. Now it's not compared to my first year undergrad. I would translate everything. But again, the professor was gracious with me, but it was challenging. On the points that Aaron said, it's also a proud, I don't know how to say it in English, but like your family and the community are proud because I think it's Markus who mentioned living among your community and go where God is calling you. I felt that because most immigrant in my community, it's let's work hard, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, and really that's what is happening in the community. But standing up and saying no, I have to pursue education, and to really focus and go forth with the goal that brought you here. It's like I feel like I'm like Abraham, like getting away from everything and alone and walking alone. So yeah.
As a teacher, it's mostly positive. So no such challenges whatsoever. And I was led graciously because step by step, so first leave Switzerland, go to Germany, still the same language basically, and then move to Norway, still Western European culture, and then the big step really was coming here. But for me it feels really here the term enrichment applies. It is enriching for myself, and I think sometimes that the students themselves feel enriched by having someone who comes from somewhere else. So that is really positive, but it has nothing to do with immigration, but rather with this migration worker experience. The only downside personally is that I see my home country, Switzerland, in such a distress, and I can't contribute. That's what I'm sorry for. But then I try to see God's broader vision, because the whole world somehow is in distress. And so wherever I am and can contribute somehow to work on this, that must just be good enough.
Just to remind everyone, if you do have a question, you can step back to the microphones back there. But I'll continue with questions if nobody has any. All right, we've got somebody moving to the mic.
So I would like to ask one fun question and one more serious question. I'll start with the serious question, then the fun question. The serious question is, and it may not be a great question. It's just one that I think, at least I wonder. For each of you, would you say that I'm going to give several options. You may use another option, but like I wonder sometimes what part of you feels in what way. Like, do you feel like a missionary? Do you feel like a long-term visitor? Do you feel like a, like you use the word refugee, an alien? Do you feel like a, because all of you in a different way have said that you don't really yet feel at home. And Dr. Zehnder was talking about yesterday how becoming an immigrant is not all upside, that I'm hearing this really clearly, that this has been a hard road and you wanted to be here. And it was still a hard road. It's still now a hard road. So I'm just wondering what emotions or what your identity, because, when you're home, you're with your home. You're accepted. You're funny, you're brilliant, you're smart. But here, you're like, okay, I'm a smart person, but I don't know the language yet. So I don't sound as smart, but I'm smart. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just wondering, how would you characterize the way you think of yourself? You think you're a missionary to the United States, those. I just wonder, how do you perceive yourself that way? And the second question is fun. What is it, and we won't get offended, what about America or Americans or whatever, are you like, okay, I don't get that. What is this? You know what I'm saying? Like just something that was just that we would think, oh, that's really funny. Yeah, we're like that, But either America itself or Americans, either something that surprised you, you thought it would be this way, it wasn't, or this, why did they do this? I think we'd all be very interested in that. So thank you.
On their prepared list of questions was, what's the strangest part of American culture for you? So they should have something ready to go. Yeah.
Sure. For me, so there's two-part question. The first question is, the answer to the first question is that I know I want to do ministry. I want to do biblical. I'm not exactly sure if I want to be pastor or missionary, but I will do ministry. And to the question to like where I'm gonna do that, because my family is here. The current answer is I think I'm gonna do it here, right here, in Indianapolis. And to the second part of the question, I say time here. People take time so seriously. Time, you miss a few seconds, I guess you are late, you are, I guess, in trouble or something. Or maybe you miss everything. I remember coming here on the first week. We had an appointment. And the guy who came to pick us up was like, he was so hoary. He was like, you guys were late. And if you don't make it on time, I guess we won't do nothing. We have to come back. And in my community, we don't actually really care about time, I guess. So, yeah, that was pretty strange to me as a newcomer in the country. Yeah.
For me, I consider myself as a learner. I think I'm here to learn. Before being a learner, I think I know deep down that I'm here for a purpose in the States, and that purpose has many layers. One of them is to learn in any way, because I know that being created as Congolese, I know that I have a duty to contribute to the good of my country. So being here, I learn everything possible that I can, everything positive that I can learn from, in this environment, from my colleagues, my classmates and my professors. Learn from politics, learn from leadership, all of that. I know that it's a learning season for me that I'm gonna apply when I go back home. When it comes to identity, sometimes it's down, where you're like, I lost myself. I lost the person that I grew up knowing, but again, the scripture, that's when it comes in, where you're like, no, you are not defined by what the outside is calling you. You are defined as my child. And what I said you are, that's what mattered the most. So scripture really boosts my identity every time when I get down. The weirdest thing that I noticed about here, it was how people are individualists, you know. Brian, we were in the class together, and I told them this, the church that I was at in Seattle, we had many services, international service. So in one service, the pastor will say, I mean, majority are American, the pastor will say, please, after church, greet one another in the lobby, right? And I mean, again, you greet one person and you left. And then the international service, the pastor every time after preaching, he'll be like, please don't take time greeting. Please go home. They need to close the church because because we'll stand there greeting, laughing, you know, eating, all of that. So it was like, you go in this service, they are asking you to please greet one another. You go in this service, you're like, please don't greet each other. You know, that was really weird to me because I'm used to spending the whole day at church and sitting in a family, eating and having fun. But again, here was really weird to me in that sense.
Yeah, for me, I still see myself as an immigrant because that's how people views me. You know, like is it Nella? Neza said, you know, it's a part of, you know, there's a still part of me that, you know, in Myanmar, you know, the missing piece, you know, it doesn't matter like how I view myself, you know, it matters how people view me like, oh, this guy's from Asia, you know, even though if I say I'm American, Asian, but I don't look like it, you know, but I still view myself as an immigrant because, you know, part of me is missing, you know, even though I can settle, you know, I'm settled here, but, you know, I can adjust, you know, I want to be, you know, I can still settle in my home country, you know, if that makes sense, you know, because I really, you know, my native, you know, ethnicity is Zo, you know, and I cannot deny it, you know, you know. So, but the weirdest, you know, coming to America is the people are really strange, you know, you know, how they look, you know, looking at the color skin, you know, they are white, I am brown, you know, it really strange, you know, they are individualists because they don't, even though they are, you know, they speak the same language, they look the same, you know, like the color of the skin, you know, they don't, you know, they don't talk, even though they are from the same country. You know, in Myanmar, you know, even though we come from a different village, but we speak the same language, we get along each other's. And the second thing is, like Aaron said, the time. You know, here, you guys, the time have authority over everyone. In Myanmar, we have authority over the time, so it's different.
Can I do one more thing? Not on the other part. Knowing that I'm here for a purpose, not only learning, I forget to mention that serving also, serving this country in any way that I can through the jobs that I work through, any occasion that I get, I think serving also the country that gave me an opportunity is one part of a servant.
I identify with the learning part. I'm still learning who you are and what the history of this country is. It's fascinating. On the other hand, I didn't really come to learn primarily, but to teach. And I did it on purpose because I think that there is still hope that important cultural, theological battles can be won. So for a European, it looks like not everything is lost. And that's a major factor why I really like to be here and contribute into this battle. And then the fun part, or what is wrong with you question. There are two major, much is wrong, as with everyone, but one problem is we must not tell them that this is the case. They don't like to hear that. So I take the opportunity now to do it. No, joke aside. One element that is a little irritating is it's a old European prejudice, but there is obviously something to it, and that is that Americans tend to smile and be kind, but there is no emotional connection related to this. And that's very different from Europe, where people don't smile as quickly, but if they do, it's real. And so that is one thing. And connected to this, I never quite know what's going on, because there is so much facade, there is so much almost like East Asian. You don't show your true face, because then you're vulnerable. So that makes it difficult for me to read Americans, just very generally. And again, this is so different from what I grew up in, where we would just be blunt and upfront and not play any roles and put on a nice face. So that's a constant challenge. And the challenge is deepened even by my observation that I feel the Bible is more on the European side than on this face covering side. So, yeah.
Dr. Zehnder, we heard other people mention time having authority over Americans. Would that be the same in Switzerland?
Yeah, there is no. Actually, I was tempted to say you have not been in Switzerland. So this is even more of it. Mm-hmm.
They do make watches after.
Yes.
Last question. If you could sort of boil it down, what's one thing you want your professors, your fellow students to know about immigrants? What would you communicate to them?
I would say I have purpose here.
No.
I came here for a purpose, first to learn and, to pursue ministry, for the glory of God, and share the gospel with others. I think that would be the one thing that, I want people to learn from my story, that, I don't just come from nowhere, I don't just come for like fun, I have purpose because the providence of God, guiding me, and showing me grace, he's been faithful to me, over my life.
For me, when it comes for immigration, something I would like you to know is that when someone is an immigrant, he has this small world, the immigration world, that world. So, as like me, when I was in Tanzania, it was in the camp. I didn't go anywhere, just the camp. So when I got a chance to just leave the camp for a few minutes, I experienced different things, different world. And I enjoyed it. I wanted to pursue and understand what is happening on the other side. Similar here too, when we are teaching immigrants, they have knowledge of their own world, where they came from. And as well as even the country too. The country, and so we just to know that and teach them, knowing that they have their own world too. And one last thing is that to some people, I think I've experienced this twice now. When one immigrant tell you his lifestyle, his life, how he lived, the life he lived in. Some people, Americans, I usually take it as maybe you don't know anything since you came from this area, and I start to come. I'm looking down on you to some extent. And they just think that you don't know anything. Well, you know what you know from where you come from. You just don't know what from here. That's all. Thanks.
Yeah. I think what I can say, professors, students, but also every citizen of the country that welcomed us, I think one thing you should know is that what you have done, you are being like an answered prayers for many people. People who escape wars, like you are being an answer to his parents, my parents, who have prayed for a better education, a better life for people. I think Americans take it lightly. Yesterday, Markus said how God has commended Israel, like when one comes to your home, welcome them. So knowing that God has that purpose for you, I think you take it lightly. And the second thing that I would love you to know is that above being refugee or immigrant, we are created in the image of God. Like, if you can put that first before you ask me where my accent is from, I think it's great. It's great to know that I am created in the image of God before being a refugee. Lastly, what I can say is that the way Aaron said, we may not know what is going on in this country, but back home, we are somebody, like, Mostly I see it with older, like people who came as parents, and when they got here because of the lack of language and education, they look, forgive me for saying, they look dumb, like when talking to somebody. And that's how they are taken, because a kid have to translate everything. And you look at these parents who have raised 10 kids, who have managed to move up here from across the country, across the world. And you're like, no, like this is not him. Being translated by a 8-year-old boy. This parent, he's a brave man in his country. And that's always killed me when I see parents losing their value here, where kids have to read their mails. So I would love you to know that we are above being immigrant, and we are brave. I forget another thing that I was going to say, but I will remember it. Go ahead.
Anytime, come back. Well, I also would say it's incredible how gracious you and the United States have been. This is just marvelous. And so so the complaints are really, they're nothing in comparison to, and it's no complaints, it's just realizing differences of culture. So this is really something that is absolutely tremendous. And all the rest is in my book, and there is no short version.
That's right.
Oh, lastly, I remember. I think knowing people individually, that's also it's a great thing that I saw that many are missing. Like me and Aaron, like I never lived in a refugee camp. He has. So my story and his, it's totally different. I didn't suffer the way he suffered. My journey and his journey is different. So knowing us personally, it's great, and not combining all of us in one box. So,
Yeah, one last thing I want to share. I forgot to share about it. The reason I said purpose is because, if I didn't immigrate, to the United States, I won't be safe, to the gospel, because, I will not know what the gospel really is, because I would be, even though I was little, to be honest, I was not a good kid, a bad kid, hang out, with bad people, and but when I really fully understand what the gospel is, and then I really understand God's guidance, through my life, looking back, all the obstacle, oppositions that, all the difficulty that my parents and my family experience, it is God's working behind the scene, and for my life, to my life, and I want to be, I just want to add one last thing, that even though we are from different country, even though we speak the different languages, like she said, we are created in the image of God, for His glory, not for our glory, and and that is all. Thank you.
Yeah. Will you all join me in thanking them? Yeah.